I feel like this is a film that's important to be made because just as an actor, I'm not often given the opportunity to tell the story of a woman that really experiences the entire spectrum of female or any human experience. I was telling them that, like, when you experience pain or trauma or darkness or sadness, that's your character. Or if you're light and levity and love and joy and hope, then that's your character. You don't often see a woman that gets to be so multifaceted because you don't often see messy women in film. And so to be able to be a woman who's contradicting herself, but yet it makes complete sense, and seeing the messiness of an experience, I think is a beautiful thing to see because it makes people feel seen and not alone. I know that's how I felt when I read Lily.
Hey, besties, it's Katie. We have so much we need to get into. Katie Joy, my channel, Without a Crystal Ball. Judge Lehman has issued a ruling in one of the motions to compel with regards to financial statements that Blake Lively is seeking from Wayfair. And it's a mixed bag. It's it's on par. It satisfies both sides of the aisle. And we'll get into that in a second. But before we go into that ruling, we need to talk about something very serious because yesterday, a law firm that was representing Taylor Swift responded to a subpoena that they had received from Wayfair in the end of April, April 28th, 2025, which coincides with the same day that Ryan Reynolds was unfollowed by Travis Kelsey. And now we might get to understand what is going on behind the scenes and why this unfollowing may have happened, because Wayfair is alleging that they are seeking relevant information based upon a very highly reliable source, that there has been some alleged witness tampering and intimidation by Lively and Reynolds against Taylor Swift. And this intimidation, it also involves the possibility of evidence spoliation, meaning someone was instructing someone else to delete evidence. This is very, very, very wild. So we were a little confused yesterday when Venable, the attorneys that represent Swift, said that they didn't have any involvement in the film. They didn't know anything about the film. They took no position on the lawsuits. They took no position on the truth because they couldn't verify the truth of either side. It was a statement that a lot of us that have been following this thought was a little bit, whoa. Swift, who has been someone that has been a champion for women in that she has supported other women that have come forward with claims of either SA or SH. Most notably, she gave money to Kesha, $250,000, to sue her former producer when Kesha came forward and accused Dr. Luke of SA. So Miss Taylor Swift's silence felt very weird. And then there was all these back and forths with Blake's camp trying very hard to make it seem like she and Taylor were still besties. And Taylor's side being very much like feeling exploited, feeling betrayed, not really knowing what to think about things, which again felt weird because if your best friend was SA'd, how does it come back to being exploited? And referencing the lawsuit that Justin filed, which was that Blake was using Taylor as a dragon. Well, it sounds like the dragon issue is maybe what they're putting out to public, but Bryan Freedman gave us some information. So yesterday, the Venable LLP denies that they have any relevant information about the film, not about the action, okay, about the film. And that representing someone that might be subpoenaed, one of their clients, didn't mean that they had information. They said that they could get this information from Lively, Reynolds, and the attorneys if they needed to, but it was unduly burdened to go to them. And then Ryan and Blake filed a motion to intervene and basically said that, like, if you were to get this information, you would be invading our privacy. It is extremely important that you don't get this information. And they filed an instant action almost immediately after Taylor's attorneys filed the motion to quash. They intervened and were like, you need to quash this now. which to me felt like they're trying to hide something. So here's what Mr. Bryan Freedman says. And again, all of this is alleged, so you have to kind of take it for what a grain of salt. But he wrote to Judge Lehman and said that the Wayfair parties anticipate that Venable's motion to quash will be mooted in short order as their counsel and Venable are conferring in good faith. However, the lively defendant's insistence that the subpoena seeks irrelevant information is wrong. The subpoena aims to obtain discovery relating to witness tampering and evidence spoliation. Specifically, the Wayfair parties counsel are informed and believed based on information from a source who is highly likely to have reliable information. I'm assuming this is someone that's close to Ryan and Blake or close to Taylor, that Miss Lively requested that Taylor Swift delete their text messages, and that Michael Gottlieb of Wilkie Farr, counsel for the Lively defendants, contacted a Venable attorney who represents Miss Swift and demanded that Miss Swift release a statement of support for Miss Lively, intimating that if Miss Swift refused to do so, private text messages of a personal nature in Miss Lively's possession would be released. The Wayfair parties' counsel are further informed and believed that a representative of Miss Swift addressed these inappropriate and apparently extortionate threats in at least one written communication transmitted to Mr. Gottlieb. It is those communications that the Wayfair parties seek to obtain by way of subpoena, as they would be evidence an attempt to intimidate and coerce a percipient witness in this litigation. As stated, the Wayfair parties' counsel are in active discussions with Venable to determine how to proceed. Should those discussions prove unfruitful, the Wayfair parties will either oppose the motion to quash or withdraw the current subpoena in favor of an amended subpoena seeking only the communications in question. Did you hear that? So Lively's allegedly directing Taylor to delete text message. Okay. Here's how you can tell there's been a breakdown in this relationship. Taylor Swift has basically been in hiding since all of this kicked off, and she doesn't want to be in the public, right? She just got off her biggest tour ever in Eras, and she obviously needed some downtime with her boyfriend. But if Blake was sending messages to attorneys and sending messages through attorneys to reach Taylor, that almost suggests that they're not on speaking terms. Like if you are going through your attorneys to have to talk to someone who's supposed to be your best friend, it sounds like there's a breakdown here. And what they're alleging against Michael Gottlieb is very serious misconduct by an attorney if it's true, because that would implicate him in possible witness tampering and witness intimidation, which is a felony. And it's part of what's called obstruction of justice. And if he made a threat that if she didn't give a statement of support, private text messages of a personal nature in her possession would be released. I don't know what kind of personal texts that she has, Lively would have. I mean, if you think about when you text with your best friends, you probably say a lot of stupid crap, but you know, I'm not going to say that she has inappropriate photos of her, but what this sounds like is very similar to what Lively and Reynolds did, where they wanted Justin to issue that statement that they wrote, basically taking ownership for all of the failures on the film. And then when they didn't do that, they said the gloves would come off. And the other allegation is that Blake was using these false allegations of sexual harassment on the set and would say to them, well, if you don't do this, I'm going to go run to the New York Times and I'm going to ruin your reputation. So would it be outside the possibility that she might do this to someone who's a quote unquote friend? And what if it's not just Miss Lively that's doing this, but it's Mr. Reynolds that's the one sort of pushing Blake to do it? You know what I mean? But I believe now it would make sense if this is true. This would make sense why Taylor or Travis Kelsey would unfollow Ryan. Like if your girlfriend was a friend with these people and these people were threatening to destroy her, and humiliate her and try to embarrass her in order to comply with them, I would unfollow them too. Is that what else are they doing to their friends? What kind of stuff do they have over their heads, right? And then the other part was that Swift addressed the inappropriate and apparently extortionate threats in at least one written communication transmitted to Mr. Gottlieb. So somebody who is privy to these emails and communications and threats, someone who is, again, close to Swift or close to Blake is speaking to Wayfair that we don't know about. And they would have close enough proximity to them that they would be telling them this information because they're a close confidant of one of them, or they work at one of the law firms. I don't know. But again, these are very serious allegations, and this is definitely not about the film. And so is that why she doesn't wanna get dragged into this? Is that why when she said publicly that she wasn't a part of the film, she wasn't part of the casting, she licensed her song, she didn't make editorial decisions, and really downplaying everything that Blake said publicly about her, making her look like a liar, right? And not saying anything about supporting Blake. In fact, Swift has gone out of her way through her public statements to not at all whatsoever, not at all whatsoever support Blake in any way. And is this why? Is she not bending to their demands because she's been threatened? And is she saying she doesn't want to be involved because she's been threatened? That's pretty serious. I would think that Taylor would have information on this case. At a minimum because she's friends with Blake. At a minimum because her song was involved. At a minimum because she was at the penthouse the night when Baldoni was there and she wanted them to use the rooftop scene. So what they're accusing them of is witness intimidation, which is even in a civil case, it's a serious issue and it can have federal implications under the code 1512. Prohibits interfering with witness testimony in a federal proceeding, and it includes both civil and criminal cases. It often focuses the most on the criminal side, but it applies to civil cases where federal law is involved. It addresses witness tampering and federal proceedings. So, what are the consequences of witness tampering or intimidation? Individuals who intimidate or tamper with witnesses in a federal case could face criminal charges. They could be sanctioned, which includes imprisonment or fine. In a civil action, it could mean a witness or victim of intimidation in a federal case may also be able to bring a civil action to restrain the person who intimidated them. So, an example of that would be verbal or written threats to a witness or a family, harassment, encouraging someone to lie or withhold information under oath, interferes with their ability to provide testimony. It actually could be obstruction of justice. And witness intimidation can also include destruction of evidence or concealing recordings or mutilating documents, destroying documents. Because the federal government has really strict laws about witness intimidation and tampering, cases of witness tampering in civil cases can be charged criminally if it is found that the intimidation and witness tampering occurred. It's not to say that it will, but what they're alleging is that they're trying to influence Taylor not to share what she knows, which kind of begs the question, what have they told other people to keep them on their side? You know what I mean? And it also makes sense why a lot of people might be distancing themselves from Blake and Ryan right now, and why they're appearing with people that they haven't been seen with for years. Like recently, Blake was seen going somewhere with Salma Hayek. And it's like, oh, so all your other friends are gone. So now you have to restore your friendship with Salma. It's just very opportunistic. So there's a lot going on here, but the friends that have been close to them in the recent years are scattering, and none of them are coming out to support them. So, what does that say about this being a possibility? Is it not just that they don't want to get involved, or are they being threatened? And we know that this happens in cases that involve celebrities all the time. Diddy's on trial right now, and this is exactly what he did to people and how he kept his empire going. And people that get that high up in Hollywood and become that entitled do begin to think they're above the law. So, if this is true, that would be very damning. And it would also explain why Taylor has been so silent on all of this and why she hasn't been supportive. And if it's true that this happened, it would be awful if you're Taylor because it's supposedly your best friend making these threats against you. So, even before It Ends With Us was released in theaters, Taylor was on tour and she was in a new relationship with Travis. And Blake and her didn't really appear together that much. She was at the Super Bowl with her and the in 2023, and then they went out to dinner in like October of 2024, and that's the last time they've been seen public together. I do wonder if this relationship strain was happening before the case even was filed because of what they might have, of the pressure they might have been putting her under. It also makes me wonder if threats were made to individuals for the use of songs in the movie. There was a text message that Blake sent to Justin about them being mafia like it's all in the family. It's for the good or for the bad. Like, and the mafia resorts to extortion. They exhort to threats. They resort to witness tampering. They'll kill people that are witnesses. I'm not saying that that's what Blake and Ryan will do, but they do it's the racketeering, it's intimidating people. So she basically implied it with the mafia comment and then with the dragons for better or worse, right? You're either with us or if you defy us, it's going to be a big problem. And sometimes when you're friends with people like that, they don't show you everything right away. So I don't know. But that's why they're seeking information from her. It's a big claim, and it's a really big claim to make against an attorney in a case because attorneys that are engaged in that kind of behavior can be disbarred, they can be sanctioned. The law firm that is representing them, where Gottlieb works, has had a couple attorneys and partners be disbarred. There was a disbarment of a former partner named Keila Ravello, and she was disbarred for her involvement in a $7.8 million fraud. William Kaplan, who's a former chairman of the company, was suspended for practicing law for 2 years, retroactively to 2019 because he was involved in the college admissions scam. He was later reinstated. The woman that was disbarred was arrested in 2014 and she cheated one of their former clients, MasterCard, out of millions of dollars. Hutton and Williams, Wilkie, and MasterCard out of millions of dollars. So they've had people there that have gotten in trouble. And Gottlieb is known for going against defamation, against conspiracy theorists. So he would sue people over like the Pizzagate stuff. He won a judgment for the election workers against Rudy Giuliani for the claims of election tampering with those machines and the women that he claimed were involved in it. So he goes into these high profile cases and he's known for doing these defamation cases. But to suggest witness tampering is very serious for a attorney. Attorneys interfering and obstructing their own case and trying to intimidate and threaten witnesses, it can lead to sanctions. It can lead to evidence in the case being completely thrown out. It can lead to their case being completely tossed and dismissed. It can lead to a referral to the state bar for discipline. It can lead to disbarment. And it can also lead to felony charges for witness tampering and obstruction of justice and fines. So attorneys should not be engaging in this kind of behavior. They also shouldn't be signing and filing sham lawsuits. But some attorneys will go to those lengths for their people. I'm not suggesting he did, but that's their allegation right now. And there's been a lot of allegations leveled on both sides of the aisle. But again, reliable information that Miss Lively requested she delete her text messages. Counsel for Lively and defendants, Michael Gottlieb, contacted a Venable attorney who represents her and demanded that Miss Swift release a statement of support for Miss Lively intimating that if Miss Swift refused to do so, private text messages of a personal nature in her possession would be released. I wonder those if she's talking about like texts that she would include in her complaint. Remember how she didn't show any text messages in her complaint? She just wrote what she said to someone. And then another one was that Miss Swift addressed these inappropriate and apparent extortionate threats in at least one written communications transmitted to Mr. Gottlieb. So, this could explain why there's some iciness between the two of them. I'll see how they respond to that. I'm sure it's going to be a denial. I can almost guarantee that Blake's side will come out swinging and deny this point blank. When it comes to the motion to compel, the judge ruled on Wayfair's being compelled to disclose financial records to Lively. And Lively and Lively's attorneys met with Wayfair's attorneys for a meet and confer, and they were fighting over some of the documents, specifically about net worth and transactions and money that had been liquidated from public shares and companies. And they asked that it be denied based on we will give the documents. This is premature and it's all irrelevant because we were going to give them anyway. But they were fighting about the net worth, specifically that being an issue. So the judge says that the financial requests for production are similar to and for every one of the Wayfair parties. So for Abel, Nathan, Baldoni, Heath, and Sarowitz, they call for documents sufficient to show your net worth, including financial statements, assets, liabilities, and tax returns, and all documents concerning your liquidation of assets in 2024 or 2025 for any reason related to the film or the actions, including but not limited to the sale of shares in any publicly traded company. They want this for the damages, but the money that they are claiming was liquidated was from Steve Sarowitz publicly held stocks for his HR company. And they said that he's like liquidated like 100 million in the last year or so. And they're trying to say that he threatened them and said that like he was willing to spend 100 million, which if he wants to spend 100 million to defend himself, he can do that. The judge also explains that for TAG, Wayfair, and IEWU, they call for tax returns, financial statements, and year-end balance statements for the period of June 1st, 2020 through the present, and all documents sufficient to show gross income, net income, and expenditures. So it says that they may obtain discovery regarding any non-privileged matters that are relevant to their claims or defenses, and the relevancy is broadly construed. And his argument is that the Wayfair parties are seeking substantial economic damages in this case from Lively's alleged tortious conduct. And the Lively parties have cost the Wayfair parties their file, their reputation, their future prospects, even their talent agency that he took from the actual complaint, alleging that as a result of the conduct of the Lively parties, the Wayfair parties have suffered loss of income and interference with future income, and that Baldoni, Heath, Nathan, Abel, and Sarowitz sustained harm, including to their businesses and professions. Their prayer of relief is seeking money judgment, which was representing compensatory damages, including consequential damages, lost wages, earnings, and all other sums of money, together with interest on those amounts, an amount to be proven at trial, but in no event less than 400 million. That's a lot of money. I don't know if that's what they're going to get, but and that's what they can prove, but the judge says that documents sufficient to show net worth of each of the parties, including financial statements, assets, and liabilities, and for corporate entities, financial statements and year-end balance statements, and documents sufficient to show gross income, net income, and expenditures are relevant and should be produced. And I'm pretty sure this is what they said they were going to be producing anyway. I think they were arguing about what kind of documents would be acceptable. And then in terms of tax returns, they said that Lively has not shown an entitlement to tax returns because of the private nature of the sensitive information contained and in part of the public interest in encouraging the filing by taxpayers of complete and accurate returns. Courts have long been reluctant to order discovery of tax returns. So by a party seeking to compel production of tax returns in civil cases must meet a two-part showing that the returns must be relevant to the subject matter of the action, and a compelling need must exist because the information is not readily attainable from a less intrusive source. And although the returns are relevant to the subject matter of the action, she has not shown that information she seeks will not be contained within other documents that she's requested and that the court has ordered to be produced. So she has also not shown that documents concerning the liquidation of assets by Abel, Nathan, Baldoni, Heath, and Sarowitz are relevant to claim for damages. Holding that information regarding a party's ability to satisfy a judgment ordinarily is not discoverable prior to entry of a judgment. So I think that what he's saying is that she didn't show enough cause for why she should be given and granted access to very private information in tax returns because of how highly sensitive they are, and that the courts don't want to interfere with people filing their taxes. They want people to participate in the taxation. And a lot of people are leery of filing taxes because of that, Big Brother is watching us and you're putting out all of your financial records to the government. And if the government has it, that's one thing, but then to give it to someone else is highly different. And he's noting that he believes that she wants the money about liquidation of assets to see if they can satisfy a judgment. So, like, they're trying to see how much money they have to see that if they had money, can they satisfy if we win? And he's saying that's not allowed. So she doesn't get about liquidation of assets and she doesn't get taxes, but then she gets the other documents that Wayfair said they were going to give anyway. So it's kind of like granted in part, denied in part. So he directs them to provide documents by May 28th, and she's denied from the taxes and from liquidation. And he ordered that today. So it's a mixed bag. They know they have to return over these documents, so it shouldn't be a big deal. And it should be expected, though, that Blake and Ryan will have to do the same because if he orders them to hand over these kinds of documents to Blake, they're going to expect and make sure that she's giving them to Wayfair. So Blake will claim this as a victory. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's good because it seems like he understands the reason why she wanted to see the money was to see if he has the money to pay her. Because it appears that this whole thing is just about Blake getting more money. There's now new accusations of witness tampering and possible spoliation of evidence. And it's odd because yesterday, when Venable filed their motion to quash, and when Ryan and Blake's attorneys filed the motion to intervene, all of them were very trying not to use her name, Taylor's name. And they sent a letter to the judge yesterday here, and they said that they had served a notice of intent to subpoena Venable that does not represent any party to the action. And as of the date of service, did not represent any third party served with discovery in either of the actions, which I think is an interesting way of putting it. Like, they were trying to say, well, when they served them, Taylor wasn't even subpoenaed. They weren't a witness. Almost trying to like set the stage that they knew what was coming, maybe. And it says the subpoena seeks all communications between Lively and Reynolds concerning the actions and documents such as communications and communications between specific attorneys concerning Miss Lively. They filed a motion to quash and they intervened. Limited purpose of moving to quash it. It seeks Lively and Reynolds parties' attorney communication, including those of Michael Gottlieb, with no explanation as to how they could be relevant to any party's claims or defenses in the actions. So they were trying to say that they were not telling them why they were seeking this information. And again, not using Taylor's name, which again is so weird. And then the way that they make it seem like, well, they subpoenaed him before they subpoenaed her, and she wasn't even a witness when they subpoenaed him. Did they know? Were they trying to get around a loophole of like, she's not yet a witness, so therefore we can intimidate her? I don't know. But that's how they positioning it to the judge. And we know that this is a case that is very highly emotional, and the Lawyers on both sides are making allegations of misconduct by attorneys. Crimes have been accused on both sides. So we'll have to see if the information Wayfair got was reliable, but it could very well explain why Taylor is not defending her best friend. I mean, would you if they were threatening you? And then asking your friend to commit spoliation and tampering of your documents, that's a serious deal. You can get contempt of court for that. And if this is how they're acting, a lot of this seems very obstructive. I'm just going to put that out there. So, what are your thoughts about this? Tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.